Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Erin, and here on this channel I love to do mostly crochet and knitting, and you guys know I like to dibble dabble a little bit into other types of fiber arts. So you guys have seen I have already started my home decor series featuring again crochet and just other type of yarn arts, and I figured, you know what, today let's go ahead and dive into the second episode or the second installment of my home decor series. So as you guys can probably already tell by the title of today's video, we're going to be doing some macrame, except it's not really macrame, it's kind of like crochet-ame. Is that a thing? So pretty much what I'm going to be doing for today's video is attempting the art of macrame, but instead of using standard macrame cord, I'm actually going to be using yarn. So this is going to be a really great project for stash busting all of your yarn. This is pretty much like a, what are the words I'm looking for? A leftover yarn project. So go ahead, pick out any type of yarn that you guys would like to use or like see hanging up on your wall. But literally the only materials that I need to use today for this macrame style project is, firstly, I'm going to be using some standard wooden dowel rods, and I actually just got these off of Amazon. So I will go ahead and link these really simple and basic dowel rods down below in my description box so you guys can check these out for yourself. But I think these are only like a ½ inch or maybe even like a quarter of an inch thick. They're very basic. You guys can pretty much pick these up at Michael's, Joann's, and I'm only going to be using one. Literally just this. But here it is, dowel rod item number 1. And then next up, literally the only other material that we need to use, I'm just going to be dipping into some of my yarn stash. So you guys have seen me use this yarn a ton of times in the past, but this is the Lion brand Wool Ease Thick and Quick. This is a number 6 super bulky yarn. So I'm just choosing to go with a thicker type of yarn. That way when it's actually on the dowel rod, you'll really be able to see all of the knots and like designs that I make. If you guys would like, you can choose a thinner type of yarn or like a thinner weight of yarn, like a DK weight, a worsted weight, or even a sport weight yarn. Just keep in mind that the thinner the yarn choice that you guys go for, the more detailed and tiny all of your work will be. And I really want this to stand out on my wall. So I'm going with a number 6 super bulky yarn. And other than the yarn is a handy dandy pair of scissors to help me cut my yarn strips. And that's it. So let's just go ahead, dive on into this tutorial, and I hope you guys like it. Long before I started my YouTube channel, I was making like purses and clothing out of macrame, and I actually made a ton of hanging plant hangers. That sounds really repetitive, but I was pretty much just using macrame to make a bunch of fun different stuff in like the home decor arena and accessories. So I'm really excited to be getting back into macrame style art today, and again, just showing you guys other ways to spruce up your home, decorate it, make it more homey and lively. And I'm just rambling at this point. So go ahead, grab your coffee, grab your dowel rods and your yarn, and let's get into it now. All right, I'm back, you guys, and I hope you like my little macrame rod setup here. So at this point, I'm gonna start cutting my yarn into the appropriate lengths so that we can start working with all of my strips. So I have my little tape measure here, and I can't really fit it all on screen, but I am going to be cutting all of my strips of yarn at 35 inches long, and I'm going to be double stranding this because I am going to loop the yarn over the top. So I'm just going to be taking my yarn, like I said, like this, and I'm just going to double strand my yarn like so, and make sure that, again, as it's double stranded, that I'm cutting it at 35 inches long. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut a bunch of strips until I can pretty much fit up this dowel rod. All right, so I have a bunch of my strands cut and ready to be added to the dowel rod. And honestly, I'm just choosing like a 35-inch mark for me, because keep in mind that as we start to make knots, you're going to lose length of your yarn as you start to work more and more. So you just want to make sure that you have enough of like a grace area, and just make sure that you have enough yarn to make as many knots as you need. All right, I've zoomed you guys in as close as I can so that you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. So I'm just going to start by taking the looped end of my yarn and bring it up and over to the back side of my dowel rod. And then from there I can go ahead and open up my little hole and pull my yarn through. And now that my yarn is pulled through, I can go ahead, pull tight, and you've just created your first little knot here for your yarn to hang on. So I'm just gonna go ahead and slide this over to the edge of my dowel rod, and I'm just gonna go ahead and add a few more of these strands. So again, I'm just taking my next strand, taking the looped end, bringing it up and over my dowel rod, opening through. Why is there a fly in here? And again, just pulling my yarn through that loop and securing it onto the dowel rod. So now I've just added my first two little macrame strands onto my dowel rod, and I'm just gonna go ahead and fill up the rest of this rod with more yarn. And I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 strands of yarn in total. But to achieve our first knot, I'm going to be working with 4 strands of yarn at a time here. So I'm going to start off here on this end of my yarn, and I'm going to have 2 center strands and 2 outer strands. So now at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and start making a bunch of like lark's head all across the very top row here. So like I said, I'm going to start off with 2 center strands and 2 outer strands. So I'm going to start here with my very left strand and make like an L shape like this. So now I have my L resting over my 2 center strands, and now I'm going to go ahead and take this right strand and bring it all the way through and behind my 2 center strands and pull it out through the little L shape that we created. So this is our first little knot, and I'm just going to go ahead and bring it all the way up top to where we fastened our yarn onto the rod. So there is my first little creation, and now I'm going to go ahead and alternate over to the right strand. So again, I'm going to take this right strand of yarn and cross it over the 2 center strands and make like a little L shape like this. And now I'm going to go ahead and take this left strand and bring it behind my 2 center strands and through that little L shape that we have right there. So first we started with like a little L shape on the left hand side, and now we're doing the same knot on the right hand side. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull tight here and bring that knot all the way to the very top of our rod. So now we've just created our first little lark's head knot, and now I'm going to go ahead and move on over to the next 4 strands of yarn. So again, I have 2 center strands and a left and a right strand. I'm going to start off with the left strand and create a little L shape going across my 2 centers. And now I can take my right strand of yarn, bring it over that little L shape behind my 2 center strands and bring it through that little loop and go ahead, pull tight. So there is our first little knot. And again, now I'm going to alternate with the right strand. So I'm bringing that little L shape and taking that left strand and bringing it through the L shape again. So like I just showed you guys, we're just alternating the left strand knot with the right strand knot. So now we have 2 cute little lark's heads right there, and I'm just going to go ahead and move on down my row and fill up this entire row with these really basic lark's head knots. I'm going to repeat these same steps of this lark head knot, except now I'm going to alternate my strands. So for this next row, I'm going to leave off the first 2 strands in my row here, and I'm going to be working with the next 4 available strands, which is right here. So again, now that I'm leaving off the first 2 strands and taking the next 4 strands here, I'm just going to repeat that same lark's head knot. So create the left L. And for this one, I'm actually going to be leaving a little bit of space in between my knots. That way it gives it a little bit more of like a boho look, and it's like a lot more fringy. So I'm just gonna leave what looks to be about like 1.5 inches of space right there. And now I'm gonna go ahead and create the right L knot. Just go ahead and pull your knot nice and tight. So there is my first knot in the row. So now I can go ahead and move on to the next 4 strands available and just go ahead and repeat that same process over and over and over until you finish up your row. And again, if you guys would like to make these knots and bring them all the way up to the very base of the first row, then go ahead and feel free to do that. But I'm just kind of taking a little bit of artistic freedom here. And I really like the way that these open strands of yarn look. So I'm just gonna go ahead and stick with that for the entire row. So there are my first 2 strands. And now I'm gonna go ahead and move on to my third knot and just work my way across the row. All right, so now row 2 is complete. And as you guys can see here, by leaving that that little gap open right here, it just makes it look a lot more, I don't know, fringy and boho. So let's just go ahead and continue and add on a few more rows. So now here for the third row, I'm gonna alternate back to bringing in the first 2 strands again. So again, I'm starting off with the first 4 strands in the row, and you guys guessed it, we're just gonna make some more knots. And just like before, I am gonna choose to leave about the same amount of space open. So here is what row 4 should be looking like. And I'm actually really happy that I decided to go with a number 6 super bulky yarn. This just really helps the actual like figures and designs to stand out. Like I said, I have used like much thinner yarn. I've used like lace weight yarn and even like sport weight yarn in the past to make some macrame styles, but it does get a lot more detailed and minuscule, and I really just wanted this to look a lot more like chunky and boho. So I'm just going to continue here and finish up row 4. All right, so I have just finished up the 4th row of lark's head knots, and I feel like this looks so cute as it is. I feel like an entire tapestry just kind of with this style of spaced out knots would actually look really, really cute. But you guys know I have the too much gene. So I'm gonna take the first 2 strands in my row. And like I said, I kind of want to work across. So I'm gonna bring this very first strand in the row and kind of bring it like this way. And now I'm gonna take that second strand and just bring it up and over and through that little hole that we have right there. So here is my first little knot. And again, I'm just gonna repeat that same process. Bring the left strand over and through my little loop right there and pull tight. So the first 2 are always gonna look a little bit funky there, but now I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next free available strand here in the row. And I'm gonna repeat that same process. So I'm gonna take this strand and bring it across my work like this. And now I'm gonna take the right strand and bring it up and over and through this little hole here. So as you guys can start to see, once we work up a few more knots, you're gonna kind of get like this rope or like wrapped effect all the way across the row. So that was the first one with this yarn. Again, taking this now left strand, crossing it over and through the loop. And I'm gonna bring the tail that I'm trying to trail across the row and just kind of angle it this way and pull tight on this knot. I brought you guys in a little bit closer so that you guys can see exactly what I'm doing, but now I'm gonna move on to the next available strand, which is right here. And again, bring my trailing yarn across my work like this. And I'm gonna take the new strand, bring it up and over and through that little loop. So there is that first little knot. And again, take the left hand strand, wrap it across and bring it through the loop. Just go ahead and pull tight. So now at this point, I can just continue to take each and every single strand and just repeat that same process of tying those little simple knots all the way across the row. And like I said, I kind of want it to have a little bit of like a wavy effect. So if you guys would like, you can tighten up your knot and bring it higher up, or you can leave it loose and kind of make your row kind of slope down like that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and fast forward through this part. All right, so as you guys can see, I have just added my first like little wavy stripe to this piece. And something I wanted to quickly point out to you guys, if you guys are gonna remake this, is even though I made each of my strands 35 inches long, double stranded, because I took one strand from this edge and brought it all the way across my work, I lost literally that much inchage or like yardage. So this strand over here is extremely short, while the rest of my work still has a good amount of length to it. So keep in mind, if you guys want to add like these stripes and start crossing yarns across your work, you do need to make your strands a lot longer, because now there's only so much I can really do with this one little strand right here. But it's okay. I think it looks super freaking cute so far. Definitely, you know, home decor style. So at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and add like another stripe, but I'm gonna kind of change up the direction and the shape of it. All right, so I just finished up my second row of stripes, and it's not perfect, but you know what? I still like it, and I'm just gonna continue to work on from here. So we're actually really, really close to being done, because as you guys can see, I only have like a little bit of yarn left here at the very bottom. So I'm actually just going to finish up this pattern by repeating this lark's head process at least 2 more times. So I'm just going to follow those same steps from earlier and just make 1 row of lark's heads, and then make the second row of alternating lark's heads. So there's still like this space in between, and then this thing is pretty much done. So let's go ahead and work on that now, and I hope you guys have been enjoying this video. My arms are absolutely dying for you guys. My neck hurts. All right, so as you guys probably just saw, I got a little bit too scissor happy, and I feel like I cut my fringe a little bit too short. I really wanted it to balance out a little bit more with just like how much work I have up here. So I probably should have left another like 3 or 4 inches of the yarn, but I also felt a little you know, just mixed feelings with these like short little pieces over here on this end. So at this point, I'm just kind of taking a moment to physically unwind and unravel every single strand of yarn. I'm just really hoping that it kind of gives it a little bit more body and gives it a little bit more, you know, volume, and looks a little bit more full here at the bottom, because I did chop the fringe a little bit too short. So, you know, when you guys go to recreate this, make sure that you really take a step back from your work and analyze it, and then decide where you want your fringe to end, because I'm a little upset, but I feel like, as you guys can see, by kind of fluffing out the fringe a little bit more, it kind of helps a little bit. So I'm just gonna take some time and unwind the rest of these, and I'll show you guys the finished product. All right, so I just finished the tapestry, and this is what my finished macrame project looks like. I'm actually really, really proud of how it turned out, considering that I haven't really macrameed in probably like 3 to almost 4 years. And I think I'm actually gonna go ahead and hang this bad boy up probably behind my bed or over on the wall, so that way now my room has a little bit more handmade things, and it just feels a lot more warm and homey. But here she is, nice and up close. These are these like really elongated lark's head stitches or knots. Oh my gosh, I'm such a crocheter that I keep saying the word stitches and not knots, but these are clearly knots. So I've got this really cute, like open, airy, drapey section right here. And then because I created these rows of stripes, I do have these really cool, like vertical lines in there. And then lastly, like you guys did see, I did unwind and kind of just try to like fluff up this fringe a little bit. The only thing I would really change is I should have left my fringe a little bit longer, but you know what? She's cute, and I'm gonna keep her, and I'm gonna hang her up and be proud of this. So thank you guys for watching, and if you guys want to see more tutorials and more home decor videos, then make sure that you subscribe, go follow my Instagram, keep up with everything that is your girl Erin B. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and drink my coffee now. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you all very, very soon. Bye.